Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to be working on these through-hull fittings to start with. We removed these in last week's episode from the hull of the boat. So we're going to strip these down on the bench now, see what sort of condition they're in and see whether we can save them. So we've identified that we don't want these bits of the outside of the Blakes fittings, neither do we want these bolts because two of these snapped, so they can't be trusted. We don't want these outside parts of the through-hull fittings. They can go in the bin. Now what I would like to do is retain things like Jubilee clips, and I want to spin these elbows off and see what condition these are in, because if these are in good shape and they haven't pinked, then I can reuse these. That can go in the bin. We'll put that to one side, see if we can clean that up. Let's do the same with these ones. So the first thing I need to do is take these out. Now these are holding in the taper of the valve. And you'll see how that collar has lifted. This valve seems to be closed. To turn it on, we should be able to turn the handle, but it is seized solid. So I need to get that handle off. So that handle is just on a slight square taper and it goes over there. So I've just knocked that off, and that has given me access to the other bolt that we can remove, and you'll see the collar lift away. So that's the collar. That collar clamps down onto here, the top of the taper, and pulls it all together. Now we should be able to turn this to get it moving, hopefully, and pull out this tapered sleeve. that's very seized, so I'm going to apply some heat to it. So I found a 15mm spanner that fits on there, and I'm going to try a bit of leverage on it. It might snap the spanner, but I think it's worth a little try. Nope, nothing. So I'm going to give all the outside of it a clean up and see if we can perhaps get the heat in a bit better. So you can see the valve itself is in really good condition from what I can see so far. Of course, it will depend on the condition of that taper when we get this out. I'm going to put a bit more heat on it and see if that makes any difference now. It just freed up on the time lapse. There it is, look. Now that's very hot. Yeah, I can hold it. There we go. There it is. Ooh, that's really hot. Okay, we need that to cool down a bit and then have a look, see what condition this is. I can see some pinking there, which is concerning, but let's see if it cleans off. That's down inside. It's not looking too bad in there, just lots of dust and corrosion and bits of marine life. That's not bad at all. All that pinking has come off, so that was just surface. We do have some corrosion here, and that's because the valve has been left closed for a long period of time. So we've got some pitting there. However, these are incredibly thick, so I'm not too concerned about that in terms of the structure of the valve. We've got some pitting around the top here as well, but again, I'm not too concerned about that. So that's just a quick dress using the wire wheel on the drill. And what we need to do next on this valve is to actually clean all this down with sandpaper and wet and dry and get it absolutely as smooth as we possibly can. So that will be the next job for this valve. I also need to get in here and give that a good clean out. I might try that with the wire wheel now, see if I can get that in there. Right, so that's not perfect, but I've just given it a really quick clean. I'm going to do a deeper clean in there afterwards. But what you see now is it goes in and it turns and it doesn't feel too bad at all. It's not jamming up. So that's a good sign. So I need to carry on cleaning this. But now I know that this valve is savable, I can just loosely pop it back together and have a look at the other valves first, and then come back to this and finish off in there, finish off with this, grease it up, pop it together, wrap it up in some paper, and it's ready then to refit. So what I'm doing here is just dressing up the threads and the main body of this 90-degree elbow. And the same with this one now. I'm just dressing up the threads, giving the body a clean. This is the waste outlet from the sea toilet. So it's in quite a bad condition. It's very green, very corroded. So we're going to have a little look at it and just see what it's like. Before I start cleaning, I'm going to remove the two screws on the top, just as we did on the previous one, and try and remove the tapered fitting that slides inside. Okay, well then, that has proven the condition of this through-hull fitting. So you saw then on the time lapse, giving the top a bit of a clean up, just to give that edge a chance, and then I had heat pointing at three sides of the valve, because in here is the taper, and that's the area that I'm trying to free. So I've heated on three different points and got it nice and hot. I've given it blows with a hammer just to try and break anything off, and then I've tried moving the valve itself, and it's actually sheared. I don't know if you can see that. Now I don't know how well that's coming up on camera, but in there is pink, which tells me that this valve has suffered seriously with seawater damage over the years, and it's just neglect and age, to be honest. I don't know when this was last closed, and looking at the condition of it, I would say it's been a very, very long time. So that, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to save. It's time to put this in the bin and rethink through-hull fitting for the toilet outlet. Yeah, this valve has seen better days and is no more. So that's going to go in the bin. So obviously the Blakes valve fitted here, these can be filled in easily enough. That's no issue whatsoever. And then we've got the hole here. So I've got two choices. I can either refit a new Blakes, which they are very, very expensive. So I'll have a little think about that one. Or I can put a standard through-hull fitting in with a lever valve and hose tail on the inside, which does exactly the same job, just in a different format. And some of you on the comments have spoken to me about this. This is the inlet hole for the inlet to the toilet. Again, this is the Blakes, and I talked about perhaps not using the ring and putting in countersunk stainless steel bolts here. Now, a valid point has been raised to me about the thickness of the hull. Let's have a quick measure, see what we've got, and see whether the stainless steel countersunk bolt idea would work. Right, so the hull is 10 mil thick, 10 millimeters, so it's probably a bit on the light side, to be honest, a bit on the thin side to put the countersunk bolts in. And I also had another argument raised to me about having stainless steel below the waterline, which was encapsulated in epoxy filler and away from oxygen, which then of course causes crevice corrosion on stainless steel. So I think I'm going to move away from the idea of countersinking stainless bolts into there. So now I've got a decision to make. Do I go with the Blakes and put a brand new Blakes fitting here and get the ring and the bolts for this one and put the original Blakes back in? Or do I bite the bullet and say, right, let's have brand new and let's go through hull with a lever valve and the hose tails on both of those? But I don't need to make that decision just yet, because I've got loads and loads of work to do inside the boat first. So I think now we're going to set aside the through-hull fittings and make a start in the bilges. Right, so the next job now is to get down into the bilges and start removing all the rust from the steel beams down there. So I am prepared with gloves. I've got work lights. I've got grinder, mask, goggles, and a whole load of flat discs, grinding wheels, and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to head down there now. Let's get all of the nasty corrosion off there, and I can give them a nice coat of fur tan rust converter, and that'll stabilize everything, and we can give it a nice coat of paint before we start fiberglassing. Right, so we have good news and bad news. I am absolutely covered in grinding dust, black here with rust and bits of fiberglass and muck. And we've got good news and we've got bad news. Let's start with the good news. Good news is the steel is all in really good shape. I've managed to get in there as much as I can with the grinder and take off all of the loose rust on the top. And then I've been hitting it with a hammer and a chisel to remove all of the loose rust where I couldn't get the grinder. And everything's looking really good. This tabbing is in good shape here. Got a little bit here to redo, but I can take that off when I'm in here doing the fiberglassing, just here. But it's adhered nicely here. I've chopped it back a little bit until it's gone to a nice strong point, and I'm really happy with that. And then equally here, it's all in good shape. I've been grinding it and hitting it as well. Moving around into this bilge, this was actually in worse condition than the other side, and it's come up very, very well. And I'm really pleased. It's a bit dusty at the moment, but I've been grinding and hitting it. We've got some slight tabbing issues here. So at this point here, it was down to about here, and I've cut it back because it was loose all over there. So when we're fiberglassing, we'll tab that back in just a little bit. Up here, the tabbing is all good. As we move further forward, the tabbing was completely shot there. So I've removed it. I've took it away. It's gone, and that's going to be replaced. But the steel, again, it's in good shape. It's been ground, it's been hit. The access is a bit more difficult up here, so it's maybe not quite such a good job, but I'm happy enough with it to give it some rust protection and stabilizer now, and then give it a coat of paint, and we can look at retabbing when we're fiberglassing. Now the bad news. The bad news is, in the bilges, there was more water, and it was trapped underneath the skin of fiberglass here. So I'll just show you that skin. There is the skin. I've cut it out, and you can see how wet it was. That's the underside. So I've had to remove the strip of fiberglass from here all the way up to there, so I can get to this water and dry it out. I can't leave trapped water underneath there and then add fiberglass over the top. It's just not the done thing, and of course it's lost its bond anyway. So this water needs to come out. I can clean it all out. All the bilges need to clean again now. Look, it's just absolutely covered in grinding dust. But I'm not too concerned. I'll get the water out, and then it'll be cleaning once again after we've done some of the work to the steel. But unfortunately, we've got exactly the same on this side. Access into here is a nightmare. It looks a mess at the moment. Don't worry, I have literally just cut that piece out, which was terrible, and here it is. If you could smell this, it smells very much like that bilge smelt a few episodes ago, and you can see I've given it a little wipe. It's absolutely plastered. To give you an idea, that should be white, and it's not. It's covered in, I think it's engine oil. I don't know what else it could be. It's absolutely revolting. So that again needs a good old clean up. And then when I'm fiberglassing in these bilges, I'm going to have to be doing some laying up down there as well. This is, by the way, nothing to do with the wobbly keel. What you can see there is actually the top of the keel, but it is the encapsulated ballast. So that's a iron ballast encapsulated in resin, and hence why we don't want water sat on the top of it, because we don't want that ballast to start corroding away. So I need to clean that and totally dry it 110% before I lay any fiberglass in here. So good news and bad news, but at least I found this now and I can address it really easily at this point by cleaning it all out and fiberglassing in before I start putting the structural pieces of fiberglass in. The worst situation would have been that I put in the structural supports and then find this and I'm back to square one. Everything would have to come back out. These torches have come in really handy. These are absolutely brilliant for putting in the bilge and lighting up the area. Thank you again, Sean, for these. Absolutely fantastic. So next, now I'm going to go and get the fur tan rust converter and give those a coat of the fur tan. It's really difficult to record down there. I'll try and get a bit of footage, but if not, I'll show you when I finished it any moment now. So if you're not familiar with fur tan, it's a rust stabilizer and protector for steel. So it doesn't require you to clean everything back to a perfect finish, perfect, clean, shiny finish. If there's anything left, as long as it's not loose, it will actually stabilize it and harden it back up and prevent it from getting any worse. I've used it on countless projects over the years and it's been nothing short of absolutely excellent. Well, I did a huge piece to camera last night after I'd put the fur tan down onto the steel in the bilges, as you'll have literally just seen, and I forgot to press record. So here I am, it's the following day, I'm sat in the car in Milford Haven Marina car park. And as usual, here it's wet and it's windy, and we really do get some bad storms coming into here. So I wanted to show you some footage of a storm we had the other day with massive waves rolling in off the estuary into the lock pits, really big damaging waves. The marina is sheltered by the lock gates, and so all the boats are fine, nicely nestled in the docks, but the waves coming in were massive and the wind was terrific. So that's really interesting footage that you can see there now. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of today's video. Thank you very much again for watching. If you liked, give me a thumbs up and pop your comments down below. It's great to hear from you all. I'm really enjoying reading everyone's comments and your ideas are fantastic. Really loving some of the ideas coming in. So thank you so much. Thank you very much to all my supporters. And if you really enjoyed me, click the subscribe button and then you'll be notified of every single time I upload, which is Friday at 5 o'clock. Today is the day of release, so I'm filming this really late. So thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.